الخير وهو على كل شيء قدير. لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، له الملك وله الحمد، يحيي ويميت بيده الخير وهو على كل شيء قدير. There is no God but Allah, He is one, He has no partner, to Him dominion, to Him the praise.
Thank you. Okay, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'een. As-salamu alaykum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you so much all for attending our end of year celebration where we gather to celebrate the achievements of our students and our teachers. And thank you so much for coming on time and accept our apologies on maybe starting a little later than advertised. As you know, the Al-Salam Institute is approaching close to 15 years, and we have such a huge debt to pay back to our teacher, Sheikh Akram Nadwi, his family, in particular our directors, Sumaya and Abu Farhan, and all the teachers and all the students who make this possible, and the whole team around us. And so if I could begin with asking one of our ustads, Abid Khan, to come here and commence with some recitation, we can then get the evening going. Thank you.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن في خلق السماوات والأرض واختلاف الليل والنهار لآيات لأولي الألباب الذين يذكرون الله قياما وقعودا وعلى جنوبهم ويتفكرون في خلق السماوات والأرض ربنا ما خلقت هذا باطلا سبحانك فقنا عذاب النار. ربنا إنك من تدخل النار فقد أخزيته وما للظالمين من أنصار. ربنا إننا سمعنا مناديا ينادي للإيمان أن آمنوا بربكم فآمنا. ربنا فاغفر لنا ذنوبنا وكفر عنا سيئاتنا وتوفنا مع الأبرار. ربنا وآتنا ما وعدتنا على رسلك ولا تخزنا يوم القيامة إنك لا تخلف الميعاد. إن الذين قالوا ربنا الله ثم استقاموا تتنزل عليهم الملائكة ألا تخافوا ألا تخافوا ولا تحزنوا وأبشروا بالجنة التي كنتم توعدون نحن أولياؤكم في الحياة الدنيا وفي الآخرة ولكم فيها ما تشتهي أنفسكم ولكم فيها ما تدعون نزلا من غفور رحيم ومن أحسن قولا ممن دعا إلى الله وعمل صالحا وقال إنني من المسلمين.
Jazakumullah khairan for those ayat. It's very apt that we begin the evening with ayat on the signs of Allah being on the horizons and the Muslims turning to Allah, and the foundation of our faith being this belief. Because the theme of tonight is knowledge, and based on the fact that there are many hadith and Quranic ayat that mention the virtues of knowledge and the essential and how knowledge is essential for there to be a refined obedience to God. And so what we want to do here is to celebrate knowledge in and of itself, the pursuit of knowledge, and those who uphold it, and how a refined obedience to God based on knowledge is something that is hateful to shaitan. And so our various speakers and teachers will touch on aspects of that tonight. And what we want to show is that this knowledge that the ASI has been putting forward for almost close to 15 years is part of a continuous chain of narration from ulama from many centuries ago. And our main link is to the Nadwat al-Ulama in Lucknow, in Uttar Pradesh, in India. And so tonight we will have an address from Maulana Rabi', who is the rector of Nadwa at the moment and one of Sheikh Akram's teachers, certainly his spiritual teacher, and showing the connection between the knowledge that we've been trying to impart on Sundays and the knowledge that you will receive and hopefully pass on. And so the history of the Nadwa was something where there was a need in India to join between modern and traditional knowledge. And so the Nadwa was formed with that intent. And this sort of dynamic teaching is something which is getting more and more attention. Just recently, last year, Edinburgh Press University released a volume on modern Islamic authority and social change, edited by Masouda Bano from Oxford. And Sheikh Akram's teachings in England with ASI were also discussed in there, in terms of trying to change the dynamic with regards to how women are taught. And so what we want to show is that this knowledge is transformative, and that's what the purpose of this evening is to celebrate our students who've gone through many years of toil in order to achieve many things. And so we have numerous levels of graduation today, but with the pinnacle being our Alamiyah graduates. And so to begin things, I'd like to introduce one of our other ustads, Akhlaq Chaudhry, who's head of our Arabic department, to say a few words, please. Thank you.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه وأزواجه أجمعين. Dear respected scholars, graduates, ulama, students, colleagues, elders, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'd like to extend my welcome to you all for coming. And today is a day of three things. That number one, as Muslims, we should celebrate achievements, and for those ulama who are graduating today, just as we celebrate the birth of a new child into the world, we are celebrating the birth of ulama into the world. And the ulama, as many hadith mention, that the ulama are those people who are ashaddu ala shaitan min alfi abidin, that they are harder upon shaitan, more severe upon shaitan than 1,000 worshippers. So this is a day where we celebrate the achievements of those people who are graduating today, those students from foundation year, immersion year, I1 and I2 who have struggled and strived over the past year, have done exams, have memorized endless surf, table upon table upon table, and have succeeded and are here today. Verily, this is a day of joy and rejoicing. Secondly, today is also a day where we should be very grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for a few things. Number one, there aren't many places in the world where people can study Islam freely, study it to a high level in the comfort with the technological capacity that we have today. And I remember when I studied in Egypt Arabic, and I studied for a short period, and at the end of my period of study, there was no party, there was no function, there was no food. I got a pat on the back from my teacher, but that was enough for me. But alhamdulillah, today we are very grateful to Al-Salam for providing us this wonderful venue where we can celebrate this achievement together. And certainly we should also be thankful that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has chosen us to be those torchbearers of His deen, where we can be the ones who Sunday in, Sunday out come to study the Arabic language, study the Islamic sciences, rather than be those people who are at home, perhaps not doing things as beneficial with their time. And thirdly, today is a day of reflection. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, هَلْ يَسْتَوِ الَّذِينَ يَعْلَمُونَ وَالَّذِينَ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ إِنَّمَا يَتَذَكَّرُ أُولُو الْأَلْبَابِ. That verily, we should be people of reflection and understanding. What do we reflect on? We should reflect on how have we spent our previous year. Okay, we've graduated, we passed the exams, we're here. But what could we have done better as we enter into our new year? And then secondly, what do we do with this newfound knowledge that we have? How do we benefit ourselves? How do we benefit our families? How do we benefit our communities? What can we use this knowledge for, lest it be an argument against us and not for us on the Yawm al-Qiyamah? So I'd like to talk to you a little bit about this idea of ilm and ta'allum. And you'll find that in the corpus of hadith, that often the favor or the virtue of the alim supersedes the one of the abid. Why is there such a preference for the learner as opposed to the worshipper? Because if you think and reflect upon it, the worshipper, the learner, people learn for different reasons. Some learn because they enjoy that feeling of power that they have over other people. I am the one who knows. I am the one people come to ask information for. I am the one who has all the answers. Some people enjoy that feeling of power. Other people, why do they learn? الَّذِينَ هُمْ يُرَاءُونَ. They like to show off. They like to show the world or the people how much knowledge they have. And other people, they like to learn for the sake of learning, which in and of itself isn't a bad thing, but to what end? Anything done for the sake of doing it, to what is the final objective of that? Something very shallow indeed. But why as Muslims do we learn? قال الله تعالى إنما يخشى الله من عباده العلماء. We learn and we seek knowledge to do one thing, to increase our piety and our fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to learn how to worship Him better, to learn how to understand Him better, to learn how to understand His deen and His commandments better. And sometimes these ideas can be quite far apart. You're sitting in a Nahu class and you're wondering, how does mubtada marfu, how is that going to make me a better worshipper? But that's a job that I have to try to explain in my class for you. But everything leads to the final point, which is to make us better Muslims and to make us more pious Muslims. So, why is there this idea of constant learning? Because the learner, what the learner does, when someone is constantly learning, you'll notice that they are never static. They no longer fit into a rut. They stop seeing the world through a keyhole or through a narrow point of view. They no longer become partisan. They constantly bring themselves back to balance. When people stop learning, or they become fixed upon a position, or they become fixed upon a certain book, or a certain text, or a certain way of thinking, they stop thinking themselves because the book or the text or the person is thinking for them. But for the one who constantly engages in knowledge, constantly learns, he will constantly challenge himself and he will always try to bring himself back to balance, to the center point. Also, as we know, knowledge is made up of a number of different things. A change in skill, a change in mindset, a change in irada, a change in facts or figures that you know. And cognitive scientists, they break knowledge down into 4 broad categories. We have factual, conceptual, procedural, and metacognitive. Factual are those facts and figures. Okay? Mubtada is marfu, khabar is marfu, fa'al is marfu, maf'ulun bihi is mansub. We know this. Yeah? Okay, alhamdulillah, I hope so. Okay, then we have conceptual. Conceptual is mubtada is marfu, khabar is marfu. We bring it together, we have a jumla. Okay? Fa'al is marfu, maf'ulun bihi is marfu, fa'al maf'ulun bihi. Bring it together, we have a jumla. This is conceptual, bringing ideas together and forming new ideas. Then we have procedural. Procedural is strategies, algorithms, techniques, ways of applying these things. And then we have metacognitive. Metacognitive is taking a step back, thinking critically and reflecting upon the knowledge that you know. Having a think, is this right or is this wrong? Is this credible? Is this not credible? These are all aspects of knowledge, and this is what the learner will constantly be updating himself with. Because as a student of the Islamic sciences, the scholars say, Man kathura ilmuhu qalla inkaruhu. That he who increases his knowledge, he decreases in his disavowing or refusing of what other people have to say. Because your knowledge base starts to expand and you start to realize maybe there's platforms for other people's way of thinking. So let me ask you all a question for the Arabic students which are here today. This idea of learning, or this idea of ta'allum. What, not ta'allam with a fatha, ta'allum with a dhamma. What pattern is this word on? Who can tell me? What? Please don't embarrass me on the stage. Please, what's the right answer? It's a masdar, but what's the pattern? Or I heard tafa'ul somewhere, okay? So the pattern is tafa'ul, okay? The pattern is tafa'ul. Now, this idea of tafa'ul, this extra ta at the beginning, there's a number of different meanings as to what this extra ta can mean. And one of the meanings, as the scholars of morphology say, is takalluf, exertion. When you put energy into something, when you put effort into something to achieve an end goal. So this idea of ta'allum, this ta indicates you don't get it easily. It's not natural to you. You have to put exertion and energy and effort to achieve the goal of learning. And as Imam al-Sibawayh, one of our great masters of Arabic grammar, he said, وَإِذَا أَرَادَ الرَّجُلُ أَنْ يُدْخِلَ نَفْسَهُ فِي أَمْرٍ حَتَّى يُضَافَ إِلَيْهِ. That when a man wishes to enter himself into a matter until he becomes attached to that matter, وَيَكُونَ مِنْ أَهْلِهِ, and he becomes one of its people. So for example, you would say things like tasabbara, someone has become someone of patience. Or tahallama, someone has become someone of forbearance. So ta'allama means when you put exertion and effort into it until you become a person of ilm and knowledge. So this is what the learner is. The learner is the one who puts effort and exertion to achieve the objective, which is to achieve that knowledge. So I've only got a few minutes left, but I wanted to end on 1 or 2 points. The final point is that this idea of learning is something very precious to us because it really protects us from knowing that which is right and that which is wrong. Not just in the Islamic sphere, but in any sphere of life. As the poet said, رَأَيْتُ الْعِلْمَ صَاحِبُهُ كَرِيمٌ وَلَوْ وَلَدَتْهُ آبَاءٌ لِآمُ. I see the people of knowledge as noble, even if they come from dishonorable families. It doesn't matter where you come from. If you learn and you are one of the Ahlul Ilm, which you all are now, you are seen as noble in the eyes of noble people. وَلَيْسَ يَزَالُ يَرْفَعُهُ إِلَىٰ أَنْ يُعَظِّمَ أَمْرَهُ الْقَوْمُ الْكِرَامُ. And this is not something which disappears, but it raises you up until the noble people, they also raise you as well. وَيَتَّبِعُونَهُ فِي كُلِّ حَالٍ كَرَائِيَ الضَّأْنِ تَتْبَعُهُ السَّوَامُ. And these people of knowledge, they follow the knowledge in all situations, like livestock follow the shepherd. فَلَوْلَا الْعِلْمُ مَا سَعِدَتْ رِجَالٌ وَلَا عُرِفُ الْحَلَالُ وَالْحَرَامُ. And if it wasn't for knowledge which was out there, people would be miserable because they can't tell the difference between what is halal and what is haram. So, in conclusion, I'd like to say, I see people very happy, and you should be happy. This is a day of rejoicing. But I would like to make one or two final points. I remember Sheikh Akram mentioned in a class once that he said that shahada, certificates, passing, having your certificate, shahada is not ilm. Okay? That paper you have in your hand is not knowledge. Okay? What shahada is? الشهادة ورقة تثبت أنك متعلم. That a shahada is just a piece of paper which indicates that you are a learner. لكنها لا تثبت أبدا أنك تفهم. But it will never indicate, it will never make firm that you understand. A certificate only indicates that you are learning and you have completed a period of knowledge. It will never ever indicate that you understand that knowledge. That understanding comes with time and effort and sacrifice. So, what are you going to do next? Number one, your journey is ongoing. Whether you've completed the Alamiyyah with Al-Salam, or whether you're moving on to immersion year, or I1, or I2, I3, the important thing to remember is to keep on studying. Okay? Where are you going to study? Al-Salam is a very good place to start. I would encourage you all to come next year, inshallah. But it's important that you keep on going. Okay? It's important that you don't ever stop this journey or this pathway that you're on. Number two, you are now a community of learners. You are part of this community of Ahl al-Ilm. Okay? You are a community of learners. What does that mean? Your role and your status has changed in society. And this is not to make you arrogant, but this is to indicate that your responsibilities have changed. Your responsibility towards your family has changed. You know something that they don't. Your responsibility to your community has changed. You know something that they don't. Your responsibility to your ummah really has changed. You know something that they don't. So you need to start getting involved and doing something with that knowledge. And then finally, in conclusion, why do we study knowledge? I will end with the same point I started on. We study knowledge to increase our understanding, to gain piety, and to fear our Lord. So I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless us all with this knowledge that you have gained, to protect us from hasad and nifaq and takabbur, and to make this learning and this sacrifice a reason or a cause or a sabab for us to enter Jannah. Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Jazakallah khairan. Finishing on that point of a spiritual calling and the necessity of having a spiritual awakening, it's only apt that I should call Ustad Abid Khan, one of our resident spiritual masters, to come and talk. Thank you.
Well, what does one say after that self-introduction? الحمد لله حمدا يوالي نعمه ويدفع نقمه ويكافي مزيده. اللهم صل على نبينا محمد في الأولين وصل وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد في الآخرين وصل وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد في الملأ الأعلى إلى يوم الدين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما وعملا وهدى وتقى يا رب العالمين. Respected Sheikh Akram, fellow faculty members, scholars, and soon to be, inshallah, graduated students, and of course respected families, mashallah. To all of you, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So, this evening, I want you to really remember 4 particular C's, the letter C. And that's really what these brief comments are going to center around. So there's credentials, the first C. There's the consciousness, and character is the third C. And lastly, that of contentment. Credentials, consciousness, character, and contentment. And I understand, I'm told that some have come for a fifth C, which is that of the catering that will ensue thereafter. But sticking to the four that we have at hand right now, first and foremost. So, just first and foremost, alhamdulillah, Allah blessed us that in the preceding weeks to tonight, we were present at a few different events of graduation, some for GCSEs, A-levels, a degree, etc. And these were the credentials that people graduated with. And what I just wanted to share was the following comment that, alhamdulillah, someone mentioned. And that's the following. Even with those, if you want to call it, for want of a better word, dunyawi credentials or qualifications, it may well be that these credentials and qualifications are means that open doors by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of course. They open doors, as the expression goes. But really, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, friends, what keeps our young people or any person in the room once the doors open is not really the credentials or the qualifications, but actually the character and the qualities that the human being brings to the table. And I think with an amazing night like tonight, which marks milestones for both individuals and the Institute alike, it's important that we remember this night must not just be about credentials which have been acquired, which about qualifications which have been received, important as they are in their own right. But really, the question needs to be asked by each graduate themselves, and each one of us, in fact, on our journey towards Allah and the home of the hereafter, are those qualifications and credentials, is that bit of knowledge that I am gaining and receiving and being blessed with, the inheritance of the Prophet ﷺ that I am hopefully being bequeathed, is it actually transforming my character, as Shaykh Akhlaq alluded to earlier on? Is it actually inwardly changing me, rewiring my emotions, my thoughts, my instincts, my senses, my direction? Am I relocating my qibla, the qibla given to me by my master and maker, Jalla wa'ala? So this is really the question. Credentials are important, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen. But as Imam al-Shatibi rahimahullah mentions in Kitab al-Muwafaqat, in one of the muqaddimat, his introductory maxims, the al-ilmu wasila, the knowledge itself is but a means, a vehicle, a pathway to the true fruit. And that is that of action. Now, if that's the case, as Imam al-Shatibi rahimahullah mentioned and alluded to, then the question ought to be asked that this hadith, though there's some discussion around it, but it's been stated and reasserted by various imams of the past, as mentioned by Imam Ibn Abdul Barr in his book, Jami' al-Ilm wal-Fadlihi. He states, Imam Sufyan al-Thawri mentioned this, that Ibn Mas'ud said this, many people stated the same statement, that one faqih, one person who is deep in knowledge, not just in subsidiary issues, but profoundly deep in their knowledge of Islam. They are thinkers, they understand, they use their mind, they use their heart, they use their senses, their faculties fully. They show gratitude, shukr to Allah for these faculties by using it, and are transformed, shaped, molded by that revelation, that light of guidance. Those people, they are greater and more, if you like, effective in thwarting the efforts of shaitan than a single worshipper. Well, actually, knowledge itself is worship. But this worship is not just an outward worship, one of surah and appearance, but it is the worship of the heart and the mind, alongside the worship of the body, of the limbs. And thus it is a far more complete worship. It is one which has got deep underpinnings, firmly rooted, deeply anchored. And thus it is transformative for the individual, for the families, for communities, and Allah willing, for wider communities as well. Credentials needs to transform our consciousness. What we learnt in acquiring those credentials needs to transform our consciousness. And when that happens, when it intertwines with our thoughts, our emotions, our instincts, our direction, and one then traverses that path long enough, consistently enough, through thick and thin, if you excuse the expression, for better or for worse, richer and poorer, through every test, then that becomes character. Then that becomes character. And the reason why I put consciousness before character even is because that consistent character comes about. It comes about when you recognize that Allah will test us in our lives. This is our belief as Muslims, is it not? But to actually get ourselves out of our problems which we'll face in life requires us to transition from the state of consciousness we enter the problem to a different state of consciousness to exit the problem. Entry to the problem is at one level. Another level of consciousness is required to exit the problem, exit the test successfully with the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And lastly, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, when that growth is brought about, is materialized, then you see a transformation of the character at a level whereby a person can experience true, where the iman has become deep, the knowledge has become deep, it's become transformative. Then the person will experience the rida, true contentment, and tuma'nina. And because I'm conscious of time, I just want to end really by reciting two poems, inshallah. Now, I'm not an Arabic teacher at the Institute, so I'll leave this to Sheikh Akhlaq and his department to maybe during term time to translate the Arabic itself. But I've given, and I dedicate this to all of yourselves, inshallah, the families. I will recite an English poem first, which is totally separate. The poet himself has this various discussion regarding his background, his thoughts, his beliefs, with both of them. But there's some nice nuggets of wisdom in it, inshallah. It's the famous poem known as If. And it talks about character and the qualities that we should seek to instill in ourselves. The poet says, if you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too, if you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good, nor talk too wise. If you can dream and not make your dreams your master, if you can think and not make thought, and not make thoughts your aim, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to broken, and stoop and build them up with worn-out tools, if you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it on one turn of pitch and loss and lose, and start again at your beginnings and never breathe a word about your loss, if you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, and walk with kings, nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you, but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it, and which is more, you'll be a man, my son, you'll be a woman, my daughter, I had. The second, and this is the last poem, I should relieve our chairperson, Jazakumullah khairah, for his sabr, is in Arabic by an Egyptian poet. And I think this is from the, from the time of the early 20th century. He says, and that's just to give you some historical context, some of the lines we understand, some are beneficial, and some we'll need to explore a bit further, maybe another day. He says, علمتني الحياة علمتني الحياة أن أتلقى كل ألوانها رضا وقبولا ورأيت الرضا يخفف أثقالي ويلقي على المآسي سدولا والذي ألهم الرضا لا تراه أبد الدهر حاسدا أو عذولا أنا راض بكل ما كتب الله ومزج إليه حمدا جزيلا أنا راض بكل صنف من الناس لئيما ألفيته أو نبيلا لست أخشى من اللئيم أذاه لا ولن أسأل النبيل فتيلا قد فسح الله في فؤادي فلا أرضى من الحب والوداد بديلا في فؤادي لكل ضيف مكان فكن الضيف مؤنسا أو ثقيلا ضل من يحسب الرضا عن هوان أو يراه على النفاق دليلا فالرضا نعمة من الله لم يسعد بها في العباد إلا القليلا والرضا آية البراءة والإيمان بالله ناصرا وكيلا علمتني الحياة أن لها طعمين رضا ومرا علمتني الحياة أن لها طعمين مرا وسائغا معسولا فتعودت حالتيها قريرا وألفت التغيير والتبديل أيها الناس كلنا شارب الكأسين إن علقما وإن سلسبيلا نحن كالروض نضرة وذبولا نحن كالنجم مطلعا وأفولا نحن كالريح ثورة وسكونا نحن كالمزن ممسكا وهطولا نحن كالظن صادقا وكذوبا نحن كالحظ منصفا وخذولا قد تسري الحياة عني فتبدي سخريات الورى قبيلا قبيلا فأراها مواعظا ودروسا ويراها سواي خطبا جليلا الأديب الضعيف جاها ومالا ليس إلا مثرثرا مخبولا والعتل القوي جاها وماله وأهدى هدى وأقوم سبيلا أقوم قيلا وإذا غادة تجلت عليهم خشعوا أو تبتلوا تبتيلا وتلوا سورة الهيام وغنوها وعافوا القرآن والإنجيلا لا يريدون آجلا من ثواب الله إن الإنسان كان عجولا وإذا من بريت للوعظ قالوا لست ربا ولا بعثت رسولا أرأيت الذي يكذب بالدين ولا يرحب الحساب الثقيلا أكثر الناس يحكمون على الناس وهيهات أن يكونوا عدولا فلكم لقبوا البخيل كريما ولكم لقبوا الكريم بخيلا ولكم أعطوا الملح فأغنوا ولكم أهملوا عفيف الخجولا رب عثراء حرة وصموها وبغي قد صوروها بتولا جل من قلد الفرنجة منا قد أساء التقليد والتمثيل يوم سن الفرنجة كذبة إبريل غدا كل عمرنا إبريلا نشروا الرجس مجملا فنشرناه كتابا مفصلا تفصيلا علمتني الحياة أن الهوى سيل فمن ذا الذي يرد السيولا ثم قالت والخير في الكون باق بل أرى الخير فيه أصلا أصيلا إن ترى الشر مستفيضا فهون لا يحب الله اليئوس الملولا قال صحبي نراك تشكو جروح قوم نراك تشكو جروحا أين لحن الرضا رحيما أين لحن الرضا رخيما جميلا قلت أما جروح نفسي فقد عودتها بلسم الرضا لتزولا غير أن and then he finishes by saying أنا أبغي الكرامة والمجد لأمتي علمتني الحياة أني إن عشت لنفسي أعش حقيرا هزيلا علمتني الحياة أني مهما أتعلم فلا أزال جهولا جزاكم الله خيرا
Jazakallah khairan. We're finishing off with that poem on Rida and contentment. It's my honor to introduce our learned Sheikh, Abu Aliya, who's joined between the outer and the inner on many of his publications on thehumbleeye.com, as well as his teachings with us here. And he's a veteran. I'll keep this introduction going till he comes. A veteran of the Dawah scene in the UK, many publications and translations, and we hope that he'll have more translations coming soon.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على سيدنا وحبيبنا ونبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. I'd like to first and foremost extend my gratitude to Sheikh Akram Hafidhullah Ta'ala and to the other mashayikh of Al-Salam Institute, and to the Institute itself. Though I'm not kind of an official teacher here, but kind of every year, I think for the last 3, perhaps 4 years, if memory serves, Sheikh Akram and the Salam Institute have asked me to do a few courses. And the reason I mention that is not the point of me doing a course, but it's given me the opportunity to actually see people progress. And as soon as I walked in, not having met Sheikh Akhlaq before, or not that I realized, I was just listening to him, and then after that Sheikh Abid as well. And I thought, subhanAllah, there was once upon a time, back in 1989, and I was traveling with a traveling companion and my mentor, someone that a few of you may know, Abu Muntasir Munawwar Ali. And we were both holding down full-time jobs at that time. And come weekends, Friday, Saturday and Sunday, we were traveling up and down the country doing what we thought was dawah and inviting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And as we were coming back home from that long weekend, knowing that early in the morning we'll be back at work, he said something, and I can't remember what he said, but it caused me to respond with words to the effect of, it'll be nice that one day I can retire. Because all these people, all these graduates coming back from these Islamic universities and these Islamic seminaries, alhamdulillah, it'll be a breath of fresh air. For some reason, it didn't happen as quick as I kind of thought, or perhaps I wasn't looking well enough. But it's happened a long time ago. And just to be here, this is not platitude. This is just how I see it. Just to be here and just listening to just 2 young sheikhs speaking, wallahi, it's just a breath of fresh air. The way that the knowledge is articulated, the way that they carry the knowledge to the audience and the audience's heart, the depth, and the emphasis, not just on, which is quite good because it's Sheikh Akhlaq and Sheikh Abid, which is really the whole point of ilm, isn't it? You know, Ibadah and Akhlaq, really. Ibrahim al-Nakha'i, rahmatullah alayhi, one of the teachers of Imam Abu Hanifa, rahimahullah, is reported to have said that we wouldn't sit with a teacher and take ilm from him until we saw his manners and the way he prayed. Because in the end, all of knowledge, as Sheikh Abid has said, it's a wasila, it's a means to a goal, and the ghaya is tahqiq al-ubudiyyah, realizing servanthood or slavehood of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But anyway, I just wanted to say, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give credit and khair to Sheikh Akram for setting up such an enterprise and persevering in it. And the fruits have long been in the making, but they're already producing great benefits, inshallah ta'ala. And so I do consider it a pleasure and an honor to be here. That being said, I just want to leave the graduates and those who are still seekers and tullab with three sayings which, since the roundabout just before the year 2000, these sayings kind of crystallized in my life, and then they became kind of a rule of thumb for me to try to live my life by. And because they were a summary, or I see them as a summary of the prophetic life and the prophetic mannerisms, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. The first concerns ilm, knowledge itself, and it's by Imam al-Zarnuji, rahmatullah alayh. And Zarnuji is famous for writing a pedagogical book on how to seek knowledge and the etiquettes of the students and also the etiquettes of the teachers to some degree. And he says, أفضل العلم علم الحال وأفضل العمل حفظ الحال. The best knowledge is knowledge of one's state, and the best action is to preserve or safeguard that state. And by hal here, he means, what is the obligation of the moment? What is the thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is most pleased with me for me to do at this time, or for me to know and do at this time? Afdalul ilm, ilmul hal. So for example, very soon, it will be Maghrib prayer. And so the best knowledge at that particular time would be how to pray Maghrib inwardly and outwardly. And then the afdalul amal, hifdhul hal, will be that actually to pray the Maghrib prayer, not just know how to pray it inwardly and outwardly, but to actually pray it. And if we remember that, because knowledge can be very intoxicating. And if you're by nature an academic or a bookworm, then actually knowledge can become the goal and we don't realize it. Especially when we graduate away from seasoned teachers who are constantly reminding us through word and deed and through their spiritual states as well, that actually knowledge is a means to a goal, and the goal is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the goal is ubudiyyah. But when we're kind of cut free of those connections, although we hopefully will never be cut free of those connections, but when we're kind of in the world and people perhaps look up to us as sheikhs, as murabbis, as people who can communicate sacred knowledge, we could lose track of that. Shaitan is always there whispering, the ego is always there seeking attention, and we can lose track of what knowledge is meant to be about. So, afdalul ilm, ilmul hal. When I'm with my parents, when I'm with my mother, for example, then the best knowledge, and let's say it's not prayer time, the best knowledge will be how I can serve her and honor her and be a loving and dutiful son or daughter to her. There will be nothing better. Studying usul al-fiqh, will kind of take second place, unless, of course, she doesn't mind for you to do that. When I'm kind of with my pet cat, then afdal al-ilm, ilmul hal is just how to know how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants me to treat His other creatures, even if these creatures aren't as sentient as me or other human beings. Afdal al-ilmul hal and afdal al-amal, hifdhul hal. It's to actually do the deed. So that's a good rule of thumb to live by, a good golden rule. Imam al-Zarnuji died in the year, they say 620 or thereabouts. The second one it's actually my favorite for a number of reasons, is the saying of the venerable Sheikh Abdul Qadir al-Jilani, rahmatullah alayhi wa radiyallahu anhu. Sheikh Abdul Qadir dies a bit earlier. He dies, I think, 561. And he is the leading Hanbali scholar in Baghdad. And it's almost like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was bringing Hujjat al-Islam, Imam al-Ghazali's life to a close, he was just allowing the life of Sheikh Abdul Qadir al-Jilani to flower, and they more or less had the same kind of vision of what the ummah needed. And Sheikh Abdul Qadir says, rahimahullah ta'ala, and this is not so much of knowledge, this is about mu'amalat, our relationship with Allah and then with others. Kun ma'al haqq bila khalq. Wa kun ma'al khalq bila nafs. Be with al-haq, the real, Allah, bila khalq, without people. Be with God without people. But be with people without ego. So in the first half of the statement, the Shaykh turns our attention to how we should be with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, worshipping Allah and seeking to draw close to Him as if no one else existed, so there really isn't anyone else I can show off in front of or have any ostentation in front of. Why? Because it's only Allah. Be with Allah without creation, as if creation really didn't exist, so that there can be an emptying of the heart for Allah and Allah alone. But we're creatures living amongst other creatures. We're social creatures, human beings. So kun ma'al khalq bila nafs. So be with other people, be with people without our egos interfering, meaning sincerely serving them, looking out for their welfare above my welfare, not using them as stepping stones for my own egotistical purposes. And of course, the prophetic character is very important there, of how to do that. And so if we live by that golden rule and worked on that golden rule, Allah creation, the world, we would be in a better place, and the world will be a better place. And that's something that as students, as seekers, and as graduates, we really need to embrace and internalize in our life. So that was Shaykh Abdul Qadir al-Jilani. And the third one, before I actually get to the third one, there is something that also comes to my mind. It seems to me, and this could be very anecdotal, it could just be my window of experience, a narrow window of experience, that the conversations that students of knowledge have between each other and in class, with the sheikhs, with the teachers, please savor that. Because if and when you get into the wider world, 9/10 of the details and the nuances you'll never need when you're interacting with the general public. They're not going to need to know, let alone want to know, any rules of grammar. The discussions that animate you won't be the discussions that will animate them at all. In fact, more and more it seems to be that the Muslim lay public, what they want of scholars, because now they don't even need to ask scholars and sheikhs for fatwas, because they can just go online, right, and get their fatwa and what is halal and haram. But what they seek from scholars more and more is that they wish sheikhs and scholars to be social workers, counselors, parental advisors. They want sheikhs and scholars to be everything other than ulama. Okay? And that's the kind of world that many of you will have to go in. Things that you might find that are really high priority on your social media platforms of ilm, of knowledge. You go into a mosque on Friday and you're the khatib, it will be irrelevant to most of those people. I say this so that you don't stumble in the same way that many of us stumbled, that just because it was important to us and it kind of attracted our hearts, that piece of knowledge, it doesn't mean that that piece of knowledge is going to be beneficial to the lay public. Okay? And that's really important. A lot of that comes through, tawfiq of Allah, wisdom and experience. But it's something that we need to remember. We're not looking to raise the lay people up to become ulama, but to become learned in their relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the last one is from the great Imam, one of the great pietists of early Islam, Imam Yahya ibn Mu'adh al-Razi, rahmatullah alayhi. He dies in the year 258, a couple of years after Al-Bukhari, so that kind of gives you whereabouts he is. And he says this: so if we can't be with people without ego, then Imam al-Razi, rahmatullah alayhi, Yahya ibn Mu'adh, he tells us, well, okay, then at least have this level of relationship. He says, let your relationship with other people be of three types. If you cannot benefit them, do not harm them. If you cannot gladden them, do not sadden them. If you cannot speak well of them, do not speak ill of them. So that rule of thumb should be our absolute minimum, even though that's not what we want to be operating on, the minimum. We want to be higher than that. But we should never fall below that. And as students of knowledge, and as graduates, and as sheikhs, and as future ulama, it's absolutely essential that the prophetic beauty of character, inward and outward, is the thing that most marks us, more than speech, more than the ability to articulate some deep point of law or theology. Because the mark, as Ibn al-Jawzi rahimahullah ta'ala says, the mark of an alim is in his or her character. And with that we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for tawfiq. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He really blesses the institute. And as they say, hats off, barakallahu feekum, to Sheikh Akram. It's a wonderful institute. And if you haven't joined, and if you're thinking about it, really, subhanAllah, you can begin to already see the fruits of what has been achieved. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Jazakallah khairan for that. This night was meant to be about knowledge, and it's become a really spiritually orientated set of discussions. Didn't think I'd hear Yahya bin Mu'adh mentioned on quoted, so it's refreshing to hear that. Next, we're going to move on to, and it's continuing this sort of spiritual theme, this ruhani theme that we've had developed naturally. We're going to have a video played from Sheikh Rabi' al-Nadwi, who's the rector at Nadwat al-Ulama. And just to give a bit of a background as to the context of that video, we at the ASI have now been around for almost 15 years. Our main course is our 5-year Alamiya program, which is 5 years at the end after doing a foundation year, and as well as an Arabic immersion year. And then also in between that we have sort of an Arabic intensive. But it's essentially a 7-year course with a foundation, Arabic immersion, and a 5-year Alamiya program. And so Sheikh Rabi's video is very much speaking towards that sort of program that we have. We also have 2 short courses which we're glad to announce this October, starting with Sheikh Akram will be teaching a tafsir series and a hadith course on Sahih al-Bukhari and Sunan al-Tirmidhi 1 day a month. And so if you please look at the details on al-Salam.ac.uk, you can see the full details of how that will pan out. But it's to widen the scope and to have a very specialized study with Sheikh Akram. Anyone who studied hadith with Sheikh Akram or tafsir will realize he is, mashallah, a real master of these disciplines. And so without any further ado, we can play the video, please.
बात कहने की है कि अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह हमारे अकरम साहब जिन्होंने यहाँ दारुल में तालीम हासिल की और अपने तालीमी दौर में बहुत अच्छी मेहनत से और सलाहियत से उन्होंने इल्म हासिल किया। फिर यहाँ उस्ताद भी रहे। उसके बाद फिर उनको बरतानिया जाने का मौका मिल गया और वहाँ के माहौल को देखकर और वहाँ की ज़रूरत को देखकर उनमें जज्बा पैदा हुआ। उन्होंने जो तालीम हासिल की थी और जो दीन की तक़वियत के लिए जो उनके सामने जो वसाइल जो ज़राए थे उसको सामने रखते हुए उन्होंने वहाँ तालीम का काम शुरू कर दिया और नेट पर भी वो उसको चलाने लगे और नेट का फ़ायदा भी उन्होंने उठाया। और असल में हमारे नज़र उलमा में उन लोगों के लिए जो अंग्रेज़ी तालीम अंग्रेज़ी मदारिस में और यूनिवर्सिटियों में तालीम हासिल करते हैं और उसके बाद उनमें दीन की तालीम का जज्बा पैदा होता है, तो उनके लिए हमारे यहाँ एक शोबा है जिसको हम लोग महद खुसूसी कहते हैं और उसे 5 साल के अंदर उसको आलिमियत की इस्तेदाद और सलाहियत उसमें पैदा करने की कोशिश करते हैं। اور سند دیتے ہیں اس کی. ماشاءاللہ درجنوں طلبا اس طریقے سے یہاں سے فارغ ہوئے ہیں اور بعض تو بہت اہم کام انجام دے رہے ہیں. ہمارے مولانا اکرم صاحب نے اس طریقے کو وہاں بھی اپنانے کی کوشش کی برطانیہ میں, اور ماشاءاللہ ان کی ایک تعداد شاگردوں کی ایسی ہے جس نے ان کی اس طریقے سے فائدہ اٹھایا, اور دارالعلوم ظلمہ کے نصاب کو سامنے رکھتے ہوئے انہوں نے وہ معہد خصوصی والا ایک نظام وہاں جاری کیا جو بہت مفید معلوم ہو رہا ہے. ان کے طلباء سے ملاقات ہوئی ہے اور ان کی کوششوں کو دیکھا اور اس سے واقفیت حاصل ہوئی تو بہت خوشی ہوئی کہ وہ لوگ جو یہاں آ نہیں سکتے, جو سفر کر نہیں آ سکتے یا ان کے مسائل نہیں ہیں ایسے, اور وہ چاہتے ہیں کہ ان میں دینی تعلیم اور دینی علوم سے واقفیت پیدا ہو جائے, تو ان کے لیے یہ آسان طریقہ اختیار کیا گیا اور اس سے جامع استعداد پیدا کرنے کا موقع حاصل ہوا. جامع استعداد کا مطلب یہ ہے کہ ایک طرف وہ زندگی کے وہ علوم کے جن کی جو اسکولوں کالج میں اور یونیورسٹیوں میں پڑھائے جاتے ہیں وہ علوم حاصل کرنے کے بعد انہوں نے چاہا کہ قرآن و حدیث سے تعلق رکھنے والے جو علوم ہیں وہی ان کو حاصل ہو جائیں. اس طریقے سے وہ ایک طرف تو مومن رہتے ہوئے دنیا کی ان علوم سے بھی واقف ہو جائیں گے, اور پھر وہ امت کے لیے بھی بہترین کام کرنے والے ہوں گے, امت کی تقویت کے لیے اور امت کی ضرورت کو پورا کرنے والے بھی بنیں گے, اور اس کے ساتھ ساتھ زندگی کی جو ضرورتیں ہیں, زندگی تقاضے ہیں, ان سے بھی صحیح طور واقف ہوں گے, اور ان کے کام سے انسانیت کو فائدہ پہنچے گا. اور ایسے اور علوم و فنون کے سلسلے میں ان کے یہاں دونوں قسم کی چیزیں ان کو حاصل ہوں گی, اور ظاہر ہے کہ جس کو دونوں چیزیں حاصل ہوں وہ بہت ترقی کرنے والا اور بہت فائدہ پہنچانے والے ہوگا. بہرحال یہ سسٹم جو ہمارے مولانا اکرم صاحب نے اختیار کیا ہے برطانیہ میں, یہ ہمارے یہاں کے سسٹم سے بہت ملتا جلتا ہے, اور اس کے مطابق انہوں نے رکھنے کی کوشش کی ہے. اس لیے وہ گویا کہ ہمارے اس حلقے ہی کا ہے جو حلقہ ہم نے ہندوستان میں جاری کر رکھا ہے, اور جو ہندوستان سے باہر بھی ہے جس کو ہم ملحقہ مدارس کہتے ہیں. تو اس میں یہ معہد خصوصی کا سسٹم بھی ہمارے مدعی ملحقہ میں ہے. تو ہمیں خوشی ہوگی کہ اکرم صاحب کا یہ جو سسٹم ہے یہ ہم لوگوں کے علم میں بھی رہے, اور ہمارے ہم تعاون جو دے سکتے ہیں وہ دیں گے, اور وہ اس کے ساتھ جو مطابقت پیدا کر سکیں پیدا کریں, تو وہ بھی ہمارے ایک طریقے سے ملحقہ مدارس میں شمار کیا جا سکتا ہے. اس طریقے سے یہ ضروری فیض انشاءاللہ یہاں سے باہر بھی پھیلے گا. اللہ قبول فرمائے.
Okay, I've been asked to read a translation of this. Now, despite being married to a Pakistani lady for 15 years, alhamdulillah, I know no Urdu. So this translation has been provided to me. So the Shaykh says, our beloved Akram Sahib was a diligent and hard-working student at the Nadwatul Ulama who persevered in his studies and later served as a teacher here too. Thereafter, he moved to England where, after having lived there, observing the conditions of the Muslims and assessing their needs, he established this educational institution, Al-Salam Institute. He founded this institute based on the knowledge he had acquired and a consideration of his surroundings with the means and resources at his disposal for the fortification of God's religion. He also took this institute online and made use of this modern technology. Here at Nadwatul Ulama, we have a special course designed for graduates of the English school system, their colleges and universities, who wish to also pursue Islamic studies. It is a 5-year course in which efforts are made to train these students into becoming ulama. Upon completion, these graduates are granted their Alamiyah certificate. With the grace of Allah, hundreds of students have graduated as ulama from this special program, some of whom are contributing significantly. Maulana Akram Sahib has implemented this specialized program in Britain in the form of Al-Salam Institute. There are a number of graduates of this institute in the UK and the West in general who have benefited from this syllabus and which seems to have proven conducive and successful. I state this having met the students of this institute and having learned of their achievements and endeavors. I am pleased to see that students who are unable to come here to Nadwat al-Ulama in order to seek religious instruction have been provided with a similar alternative in which they have the opportunity to acquire a well-rounded and comprehensive education. By a well-rounded and comprehensive education, I mean that they are able to study the Western sciences and secular disciplines and then turn to core Islamic studies, the Quran and Hadith. This results in educated believers, a community of faithful individuals learned in the worldly sciences who are also able to cater to worldly requirements and bolster their standing while simultaneously attending to the needs of this ummah, strengthening its position. They are a credit to the ummah. No doubt anyone who has managed to excel in both types of study is someone who has a huge potential to benefit the ummah and humanity at large. In any case, the system of learning and instruction which Maulana Akram has adapted in England for Al-Salam Institute is very similar to ours at Nadwa. He has endeavored to accord it with ours. It is for these reasons we consider his institute one of ours, an extension of the system we instituted here and which is also operating elsewhere, both in and out of India. We refer to these as sister-affiliated institutes. We, at Nadwa, are delighted to have learned about Maulana Akram's institute and are prepared to assist in whichever way we can. We are prepared to consider it as an affiliated institute in a more formal manner. Like this, I will assume the illumination radiating from here has spread there. May Allah accept it. And so with that, without any delay, I'd ask Sheikh Akram please to come and say a few words. I'm really not going to introduce Sheikh Akram. It's just, there's no need. It's like introducing LeBron James or Lionel Messi or something. Okay.
الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أما بعد. Respected ulama and dear students, I am very pleased really to hear the words of my teacher, Shaykh Maulana Muhammad Rabi Hassani Nadwi, who is the successor of Shaykh Abul Hassan Ali Nadwi rahimahullah ta'ala. Maulana Muhammad Rabi, he is a scholar, and he wrote many, many books. He is the really leader of Muslims in India, and he is the director of Nazat Ulama. But besides that, he is a very pious person. Actually, in India, I met so many people, but I don't feel really that anybody is so pious as Maulana Rabi. Piety, fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, honesty, and truth. People who accompany him for a while, they can see from his life. He's a man, true believer. His life inside, outside, it's same. That's what we need to learn from the people like him. So whenever I go to India, I make effort to spend some time with the Shaykh. And this time also I made effort to spend some time with him. And I mentioned that what I'm doing here, I mentioned Al-Salam Institute and also Cambridge Islamic College. And I asked him, is there any possibility if he can give honorary degree to our students so they also can write Nadwis? So he said, no, we can actually make these two institutes as our branches outside. First time they're doing this. So, there's no harm, we can make them branches and they can be proper formally, Nadwa students and they can get a proper formal degrees from Nadwa Ulama. So, alhamdulillah, this morning I got the news from Nadwa. He has approved that, and formally Al-Salam Institute has become branch of Nadwa Ulama, alhamdulillah. So this is a good thing. Next time, the exams will happen, and people who pass the exam, so they'll be, Nadwis. Nadwa Ulama actually has many values. which which have been emphasized by the founders of Nahdlatul Ulama. One important among them is in the late 19th century in India, one thing actually happened very badly. There are so many schools. There were actually Hanafis, Ahlul Hadith, and also there are Deobandis, Barelvis, and people who had the modern education. And dispute and fighting among them was very, very bad. Sometimes people will fight in the mosque about saying Amin loudly. And then the case will go to Hindu court. And Hindu judge will judge who is more right. Fighting in the mosque it became very ugly. So the ulama started how to teach Muslims tolerance, respect each other, what we call a hilm. So this quality is very important. This time also when I went to India, I saw really that all groups in India, among Muslims, they are fighting. In India, they have their own problems. But nobody actually focus on the problem that they face as Muslim Ummah. What happening, that small problems are more important. The Deobandi, Barelvi, Ahlul Hadith, Jamaat Islami, Tablighi, Jamaat, everybody is fighting. And so much problem, and sometimes fight is very ugly, and they use very bad words. So this reminds me actually the importance of Nahdlatul Ulama. Nahdlatul Ulama emphasized one important quality, and I want to explain inshallah, and that is hilm. Hilm is an Arabic word which means to control yourself in a way that you don't become angry, don't follow the desire. Before doing anything and before saying something, you need to think. Your mind becomes so powerful that you don't say anything, don't do anything for which you have to regret. Many people become angry, and when the anger goes, then they regret. Many people fall in their desires. When the desire becomes weaker, then they regret. Halim are those people who never have to regret. They always think before they do something and before they say something. In the Quran, the prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have been described as the Halim. And one of them, is the important one, is Ismail alayhi salam, and also his father Ibrahim alayhi salam, and many others. And the Prophet sallallahu in the Hadith, he also praised the quality of hilm. Ismail alayhi salam, you can see, he's a child, young boy, and his father sees in the dream he's slaughtering him, and he asks him, "Oh my son, I saw in the dream I'm slaughtering you." But he's a Halim. He knows his father loves him. He knows if his father actually has seen the dream, it must be command of Allah. He thinks. So he said to his father, "Oh my father, do what you have been commanded." So Allah calls Ismail Islam as Halim. This is the quality actually we need to attain. So I'm going to remind all the graduates today, the students, that now you become ulama, you are going to teach, you are going to preach, you are going actually to guide, you are going to become leaders, but you have to learn this important quality. Before teaching, before leading, you need to be Halim. Don't create problems to society. If people criticize you, accept it. Still respect them. I just mentioned two stories. One story is from one of the Indian reformer of the 19th beginning of the 20th century, end of 19th century, and he's Khaja Altaf Hussain Hali, a noble man, a big reformer. Actually, he wrote a good actually collection of Urdu poetry. But anyway, one of his reforms was to reform Urdu poetry. Urdu poetry in the 19th century until 19th century was mostly about the love, ghazal, that was Urdu poetry. All the time, love and exaggeration. He is the first person who wanted to use Urdu poetry to reform, to use Urdu poetry to remind the history of Islam. So he made a lot of effort to reform it. Then all the poets of his time and literary people, they became his enemies. And they started criticizing him, using bad words, ugly words against him, full of it. Every time you read a newspaper against him. The people ask him that how do you face all this criticism? People criticize you and you want to reform. Everybody is against you. How do you face it? He said, I face it by not answering it. I don't answer anything. Just I became quiet. And he was right really. Later on, he became successful, and all the opponents, all those who criticized him, nobody knows them. His poetry remained, his reform remained, and in India until now, his books are alive, and still people read and memorize them. People learn them. So this amazing person. Second person actually who I met, and he is Maulana Muhammad Ahmad Partab Gadhi, rahimahullah ta'ala. Actually, among all the ulama who I met, I can say he's the most pious person, most righteous person. All the ulama of India, right people like Mawlana Hassan Nadwi, Qari Siddiq, Sahib Maulana Abdul Haq, many people, they used to go to Allahabad and spend time with him. Everybody respected him. Amazing person, really. When you see him, you remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And whenever you go, he will love you so much, even if he's a student, anything. When we used to go from Lucknow to Allahabad, he used to hug us and embrace us and so much love and feed us with his own hand. And not only that, he used to give us money because we spent some money on traveling, so he used to pay back all those money. And once I remember, he was also a poet, and his collection of poetry is Irfan-e-Muhabbat. Very powerful poetry about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, very powerful. So I translated one of the poem into Arabic, and it was published in Natul Ulama's journal. So he found out that he wrote a letter to me, very nice. Actually, one of the things is that I lost the letter, so I don't have. But I still remember he made good dua for me. So one of the things about him was he loves everybody, but even the people who opposed him, criticized him, when they come to him, he will love them, serve them, respect them, they become his friends. Even Hindus. When we used to go to see him, Hindu men, women used to crowd around him, giving gift and asking him to make dua. Everybody loved him because he loved everybody. When people criticized him, he respected them. So I really want everybody, in Muslim world has so many problems, so many differences. Let's forget that. If people criticize us, maybe they're right. We don't need to answer them. If people hate us, we don't need to hate back. We need to love them. The world should be full of the love, not full of the hatred. So there could be differences, must be there. People have to follow the school. Somebody will Hanafi, somebody Maliki, somebody Shafi, somebody Hanbali, somebody from Deoband, somebody from Nadwa, somebody from Breli, somebody from Ahlul Hadith, somebody Salfi. This will happen. It always happens. People always have been different way to approach something. But we should not hate anybody. Respect everybody. If you learn that really, then your life will be so peaceful. And actually, when you study in Al-Salam Institute, become ulama, and you become actually affiliated with ulama, that should be evident. If you study here, you should be a husband, does not become angry. Respect the family, respect the wife. And you become a wife who does not become angry. Respect everybody. A friend who does not become angry. Respect everybody. Don't be angry. Respect people. Don't humiliate. When you say a word, don't say it. Before saying any word, just think really, there could be a word better than that. Or there could be no need for that. If there is a word better than that, use that one. Don't use a word which is going to cause problems, which is going to hurt people, which is going to bring pain to the people. Before saying anything, think about your words. What you want. And think really, could be if I don't say this, it could be possible something actually, I become angry. I want to write criticism. Then I ask myself, let me delay for time, for 1 week. If after 1 week still I feel, then maybe I write. And after 1 week anger goes. So the one way actually, when you want to be angry, don't be angry. Just delay it. Say, okay, if it's still actually the problem same, I will be angry tomorrow, the day after tomorrow. So then you become more and more calm. So hilm is a very, very important quality really. And early founders of Natul Ulama, all of them were halim. People could say, Maulana Shibli Nomani, in Indian ulama, they declare him kafir. Fatwa of the kufr against Shibli Nomani was passed in Natul Ulama, and it was a talk of the newspapers. But Shibli Nomani never said anything, never answered back. Maulana Farahi, Hamidul Farahi is such a pious person. People who met him, they say, we never have seen anybody who has such a nice prayer as Maulana Farahi. People declare him as a kafir. And when people ask him that, do you know, people said to you that you are kafir? He said, do they know me? And then he became quiet. No answer, nothing. They are the people declared him a kafir, never answered back, nothing. And alhamdulillah, Allah named their name to survive. So people can call you kafir, fasiq, mubtadi, they insult you, they do whatever like, but you be quiet. You don't insult anybody, don't hurt anybody, be kind to everybody, nice to everybody. At least this knowledge should have some fruit. It is very bad manner that we learn the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, but we don't learn his character. We study Sahih Bukhari, but we don't learn how Bukhari was. We learn about Abu Hanifa and Malik and Shafi, but we don't follow them in our life. We must make effort that if you are ulama, our life should be like an alim, pious alim, good character, good manner, and never create any problem in the society. If there is a problem, make effort to make it as less as possible, but don't add any problem. So this actually my advice for the graduates, that keep the word hilm in your mind and make effort to be halim. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillah rabbil alamin.
We are going to break for Maghrib shortly, but now if we can get on with some of the certificates that we're going to hand out today. If I could please ask the students who are graduating from our foundation level course, the FDN, if they could please line up here behind, pretty much behind the camera guy. And if the teachers could all come up, all of our teachers, anyone who's a teacher, come up, who has been a teacher, like the one just, Sheikh Abu Aliya, tafadal. Okay, if I could please run through the names, and as each one is called out, if you can come up, please. AKM Mahdi Hassan Buhayan. Tfadal. Abd Subhan Tarapuri. Yeah, you can clap if you're guys. Okay. Amina Khan. Well done, just go through. Arif Islam Chaudhry. Fatia Begum. Hamad Ahmed. Well done. Munir Mubin. Najia Rahman. Naim Hassan. Noor Nahar Hussain. Rizwana Cherry. Salman Bilghami. Samina Salimi. Shahida Chaudhry. Shamsun Nahar Hussain. Tariq Chaudhry. Tawfiq Hamid. Yusuf Hussain. Zara Muhammad. And Ziad Asghar. Then if I could please ask the Arabic Immersion Year graduates to line up in the same place. If I can ask first, please, Afzal Patel. Alima Begum. Firdausi Baig. Ghulamdam Faiz. Hajra Mehta. Kubilay Ilko. Mariam Dokani. Nadia Begum. Narvan Naval. Naya Baraza. Rafia Ghafoor. Sadiqa Khanom. Tanya Mufti. Tufail Daniel Tariq Ahmed. And then Zishan Hussain. And then can I also now ask the intermediate year 3 graduates to line up as well, thank you. And then just next to them, the Arabic intensive students. So first with the intermediate year 3 graduates, Amina Sadiq. Imran Naveed. And Sadia Hussain. And then for the Arabic intensive, our graduates, Mahir Rayman. Mariam Walker. Masroor Usaid. Tariq Ashraf. And then finally, Saheed Situ. We had one person who, on the foundation course, wasn't called up. Asmin, I'm going to blame it on Shaheen's handwriting. Hassan Bakus. Oh, she had the short walk. Congratulations. Okay, what we're going to do now is break briefly for Maghrib and joining Isha with anyone who's traveling. And then we will return here in about, let's try and aim for 15 minutes, okay? And see how that goes. The prayer room's upstairs. Yeah, so see you soon here, inshallah. Thank you. live in America. They don't understand who LeBron James is. They're gonna be like, who's he?
Okay. I know, I'm American. So
Oh, you are?
yeah, that's right.
Are you from LA? He's done there now, right?
Yeah.
I kind of feel quite sad. You know the emotion you've been with them for 2 years now, but you're not going to see this.
I know. This is a really long one. Well done.